We are recording. So good evening, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to meet with Mrs. Dupuy and I to talk about the Hartford Central School 2021 Junior Senior Prom. The district recognizes, before we begin, I'd just like to note that the district recognizes that the Junior Senior Prom is a huge event for our students. This is one of those major high school moments that many students will remember long past graduation. As a district, we want to make sure that we provide our students with a unique experience that's memorable and favorable for them long after they leave the halls of Hartford. But we also have to make sure that we adhere to the guidelines set forth by the New York State Health Department. I'm extremely happy that we're able to offer this experience to our students this year, and this evening's meeting is designed to go over all of the details of the event. As I mentioned earlier, there will be a time at the end of the presentation for any questions that you might have, but our hope is that we're able to answer all of your questions as we go through the presentation tonight. It's also really important for us to reinforce that the information we discuss tonight is as of tonight. As you are aware, the COVID guidelines and protocols are continually changing, and we will be monitoring any changes and how that may impact our prom up until the day of our prom. We are in continual conversations with the Washington County Department of Health, the New York State Health Department, and our risk management and safety specialists for any new guidelines that come out and how they may apply both to the school and outside events that we host. If the guidelines are changed between now and the prom itself, we will make sure that we inform everybody of the guidelines. So as I said, as we go through the presentation, these are the guidelines as of today. They may change, but this is how we're working going forward. All right. So the Hartford Junior Senior Prom will be held on Saturday, May 22nd at the Barn at French Mountain. This is the old Wild West Ranch in Western Town and the old Wild Horse Saloon located on Route 9 next to Magic Forest as you enter into Lake George. Families should plan that the event will take place from 4 p.m. through 10 p.m. Tickets are currently on sale in the district and they are set at $60 per person. The last day to purchase a ticket is Friday, May 14th. Please encourage your students, if they plan on attending the prom, that they don't wait until the last minute to purchase a ticket. The earlier we have a final count and an idea of who's going to attend, the better we are able to prepare for the event, especially with the enhanced COVID protocols. Outside guests are allowed to attend the prom, pending that the guest pass process has been successfully completed. Any potential guest that is not a student of the Hartford Central School District must complete the guest pass process and receive approval from their home school as well as Hartford as well. If your student is interested in attending with a guest from outside the district, they should begin this process as soon as possible. Do not wait till the last minute. This process can take time, especially with students in other school districts, because we're shuffling paperwork from Hartford to Hudson Falls, back to Hartford, or South Glens Falls, or Fort Edward, or Fort Ann. We don't know what people's schedules are. The earlier you can get that paperwork into us, the earlier we can approve this process for you. Additionally, guests can only be 1 year removed from high school graduation in order to attend our prom. One of the most asked questions that we have received about prom is if students will be required to have a negative COVID test in order to attend. At this time, a negative test or proof of vaccination is not required to attend our prom. According to the latest guidelines, indoor events with under 100 guests do not require a negative COVID test or proof of vaccination. We don't anticipate that our event will exceed the 100 guest limit. If we are at a point where we're projecting to exceed that number, we're going to have to regroup and talk about what that testing protocol will look like. If we have 101 guests, we have to test everyone or have a negative or have a proof of vaccine for indoor events. I do have Adirondack Health and Wellness on standby in case we get to that point to offer testing for students, But as of right now, we do not anticipate that we will have to test. Students are responsible for their own transportation to and from the event. In the past, students have hired private transportation companies, they've used their own personal vehicles, or borrowed a special vehicle for the event. I know many times students will pool their money together and split the cost of a limo for the event. My only caveat with that, certainly encourage, certainly approve, but please note that private transportation companies may have their own COVID protocols that they have to adhere to, which may restrict the number of people who will be in the car or the limo. So before you sign a contract with any private transportation company, please be aware of any protocols that they may have that may impact your decision on whether or not you want to utilize that service. If a guest is in need of transportation, the district can provide a school bus. If you are interested in riding on the bus, either to the event or from the event, please contact your class advisor and let them know so that we can make the appropriate arrangements. Additionally, it's important to note that all guests must be academically eligible to attend the prom. Given the unique circumstances of the current year, we have modified our academic eligibility policy for interscholastic athletics, and we will follow the same procedures for prom. Students are considered ineligible and unable to attend prom if they are failing 3 or more courses. For prom, we will be using the 35-week grading period. This marking period ends on May 10th. So if you plan to attend prom and you are close to being ineligible or you're concerned about that, you have about a week to talk with your teachers, make all the necessary arrangements to ensure that you're academically eligible to attend. I'm now going to turn over the microphone to Mrs. Dupuy, who's going to talk about prom in more specific detail.
Thank you, Mr. Cook, and good evening. So the coronation will take place at the barn at French Mountain. There will be no prom events on the HCS campus. Therefore, there will be no need for prom goers to come onto campus unless they have requested bus transportation. The coronation will be held outside and will be held rain or shine. The barn will begin welcoming guests at approximately 4 o'clock. Guests will park in the grass area, and then we will have the opportunity to take pictures on the grounds with friends and family at that time. Prom attendees will need to be in the barn at 4:30 to receive instructions for coronation and to get lined up for the procession. Only prom goers and chaperones will be allowed in the barn itself. The coronation will begin promptly at 5 o'clock, and then immediately following the coronation, there will be one last opportunity for pictures before the start of the prom event. Again, the only people who will be allowed inside the barn itself are prom goers, chaperones, and administration. The big question you've all been waiting for: 2 spectators per attendee will be permitted to attend the coronation, which will be held outside of the barn. Masks must be worn by all spectators, if not socially distanced while on the grounds. We ask that during the coronation itself that all guests wear masks, as you will be closer together so that everyone can view the coronation. There will be wooden benches for spectators to sit on in the blacktop area. Prom goers will notify their class officers of their 2 spectators and provide them with their accurate contact information in advance. Upon arrival, spectators will be signed in and their contact information will be verified. This information will be used in case of contact tracing if necessary. COVID testing will not be required for any spectator or guest, as the event will be held outside and will be under 200 guests. If for some chance you need to change who your spectator will be, please just let us know ahead of time so we can make the necessary adjustments to our list, so that as you come to be checked in, your name and information will be there. We do understand that things may come up and those spectators may have to be swapped out, and we will make those accommodations if we know in advance. We're very fortunate to be able to have limited spectators, but we do also realize that many others will want to share this special event with you, and therefore we will be live streaming the coronation. It will be available on the district's YouTube page for everyone to enjoy. Spectators will be asked to leave the grounds by 6 o'clock so that the attendees can enter the barn for the prom itself. The prom itself will be from the hours of 6 to 10, and again, that will be inside the barn. The event will follow the New York State Department of Health guidelines at the time of the event. Again, as Mr. Cook stated, if the guidelines change between now and May 22nd, we will work with the staff at the barn to make any necessary adjustments. Here are some of the guidelines that will be enforced. Attendees will wear masks at all times unless seated at their assigned table. Attendees will be pre-assigned to a table that will seat 6 to 8 people. Each table will have a designated dance area / pod, and the students will not switch pods or tables during the evening. Those dance areas will be 6 feet between each dance pod. Finger foods and desserts will be served throughout the evening. As this is a school event, school rules will be enforced. If any prom goer does not adhere to the safety protocols or disobeys any of the prom rules, he or she will be removed from the prom. We don't anticipate that happening. School administration will be on site for the entirety of the event. Anyone suspected of being under the influence of alcohol will be subject to a breathalyzer. If a student refuses the test, the prom goer's parent will be called immediately, and again, the student will be asked to leave the event immediately upon arrival of their parent. The prom committee supports the idea that alcohol and drugs are not necessary to have a good time. The junior and senior classes have also hired a professional photographer who will be covering the event in its entirety. Prom goers will have the opportunity to receive a flash drive of all the pictures from the evening, and this will be for free. On the grounds, there's also a fire pit, and this will be available around 9 o'clock for students to enjoy. The prom officially ends at 10 o'clock, and all attendees must leave the grounds at this time. As of right now, there will not be an after prom party, but we do hope that the students will continue to make positive choices for the rest of the night that do not include drugs, alcohol, or tobacco use. So currently, we have just provided you with a lot of information during this presentation in a short amount of time, but here are the major things that students can start doing as of today to help make sure that they will be all set for the event on May 22nd. Number 1, students must maintain their academic eligibility. 2, purchase their prom ticket for $60 during lunch periods by May 14th. Again, please do not wait until the last minute. 3, complete a prom contract and return it to your class advisor by the due date. If you are bringing an outside guest, be sure to complete the guest pass process with Mrs. Getty as soon as possible. Provide your class advisor with your 2 spectators and their contact information. Arrive on time for the event. The coronation will begin promptly at 5 o'clock. We will not wait for you. We will not hold up the coronation because some people have not arrived to the venue. And most importantly, make good choices and demonstrate proper behavior. A lot of time and effort has gone into planning this wonderful event. Thank you to the class advisors, Mrs. Livingston and Mr. McDougall, the prom committee, the staff at the barn at French French Mountain, for planning and organizing this memorable, safe, and enjoyable event. Thank you to all the students and parents for your patience and support while we work to finalize the prom plans and for your attendance tonight at this meeting. This is the conclusion of our formal presentation, and we will now open the meeting for any questions that you may have. Please feel free to unmute yourself and speak or type questions in the chat. So at this time, if anybody has any questions, please feel free to unmute yourself or type them into the chat.
Hi, I'm Latasha Lewis's mother, and I actually have a question because she's fully remote. So what do we need to do to get our information to the school and get their tickets and all that?
Thanks, Brenda. That's a great question. So I know that some of our fully remote students do come onto campus to pick up materials. At that time, you can just let Mrs. Getty know that your son or daughter will be attending the event. You can also drop off your $60 for your prom ticket at that time. I will also leave some prom contracts with her. And in the event, if you know who your two spectators will be, you can leave that contact information with Mrs. Getty as well. And also always feel free to reach out to your class advisors with any questions or also to myself. Thanks, Brenda.
Perfect. Thank you.
Question in the chat, where are the prom contracts located and when are they due? We are finalizing those contracts and they will be given to the class advisors. The due date is on them. It's roughly a week before the event.
So see, there's another question. Do the kids have to dance with the pod they are in or freely? So under the current New York State guidelines, students are only able to dance with the students at their table in their designated pod. We're hopeful that that will change between now and the end of May, but as of right now, every student will be assigned a table. That is the only students that you're going to be able to dance with inside that pod. Good question. So another question is, actually a couple came out there. Can students choose their own table pod, and how are the tables going to be assigned? We're still discussing that process, but we believe that the class advisors and the prom committee will be reaching out to the students to get tentative suggestions of who they would like to be included in their pod. And then we will work to the best of our ability to include groups of students who choose to be together at a single table. I believe the plan right now is that each table will have either 6 or 8 to a table. More likely it's going to be 8. So we'll try to get ideas of who will be at those tables together. It's going to be very much like a wedding table assignment, trying to group people together that they know that they can have a good time with. So are there more than, yes, good question. So Emma asked, are there more than one pod dancing at a time? Yes, each table will have their own pod that will be 6 feet apart from every other pod. And so there's no restrictions on which pods can dance at one time. The only restriction is you have to stay inside your pod when you're dancing. And I know Mrs. Dupuy and I have both said this, but again, this is as of today. This may change between now and May 22nd. And if it does, we will certainly make any other changes that will adhere to the guidelines. I believe the governor said that New York City is going to almost fully open up by May 19th. So that might give us a little bit of hope that there may be more relaxation on the catered events restrictions.
I actually have another question. Who do we contact for the flash drive from the evening for the, like all the pictures and all that?
So Brenda, what's going to happen? The class advisors will be letting the students know about that. And basically what probably is going to end up happening is if the pictures will be free, but what the class advisor will be asking each student to do is provide the actual flash drive. So if you just, send in a flash drive with your child's name on it, and then they will download all of the pictures onto one flash drive and then get that flash drive back to the individual.
Okay, so we should actually supply the USB then?
That has been the discussion right now, but we will definitely finalize that plan with everybody, the class advisor and the prom committee.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Yes, good question.
So if anybody else has any questions, please feel free to unmute yourself and ask, or type it in the chat, and Mrs. Dupuy and I will do our best to answer your question for you. We'll hang on the line longer if people have questions, but if you don't have any questions, thank you again for your time this evening. We appreciate you taking the time. We appreciate your investment in your child's experience. And we're looking forward to having a wonderful time with the students at prom this year.
So there was a question that came up in the chat. So there is no meal, rather just finger food. So the actual class voted on that. So they are having finger foods, but there is a huge assortment of finger foods that would definitely make up a full meal. So ranging anywhere from boneless wings to tacos to mozzarella sticks, taco dip, buffalo chicken wing dip, a whole bunch of finger foods, appetizers that the kids voted on and decided to do that rather than have a sit-down dinner.
Sounds very healthy.
Yeah, also be a desserts later in the night as well. Question, is there a decorating committee, or are they just using the facility decor? Good question. The class advisors will be reaching out to parents if there is a need for decorations. Mr. Cook and myself have visited the venue, and the venue that has been chosen, there are already a lot of decorations there, which we can use, which was very nice. So if any decorating is needed, the prom advisors will be reaching out to parents shortly. Our most important goal was to get information out so people could make a decision about whether they wanted to attend, and to give them information about what the night would entail. And now moving forward, it will be finalizing all of those little details that take a lot of time, a lot of planning, a lot of efforts to put into make the final product for the night of the prom exactly what the kids are hoping for.
As people are starting to leave the meeting, if after this you come up with a question that you forgot to ask or you didn't want to ask in the public setting, please feel free to reach out to the class advisors. or Mrs. Dupuy, and they'll get you that information as soon as possible. And we'll try to continue to put out information if restrictions change and allow us some more greater flexibility in the event itself. And then Jen just posted in the chat that the meal choices do include some salads and I believe gluten-free options as well. Thank you, Jen. That's helpful to have. Again, we'll stay on. If anybody has any other questions, feel free to type them in the chat or unmute yourself, and we'll do the best we can to answer any of your questions. All right. I'm just going to stop the recording.